Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Today's podcast guest is another individual that I happened to catch at a songwriter showcase last December. This guy's very busy. He wears a lot of hats besides being a musician, and some great music coming your way in just a second. From Crown Point, Indiana, Fire Tree Records artist, Frank Ruvoli. Frank, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Rick.
Frank, I read music wasn't your first love. It actually happened a little bit later when you picked up the guitar in college. Your first love was playing baseball. Can you take us through the journey from aspiring baseball player to musician?
Yeah. I was a baseball guy from the time I was, I don't know, say five years old. I was, started in T-ball. My brother was a baseball player. My dad was a coach of mine. He coached my brother first, then he coached me. But my grandpa was actually I was a catcher. And my grandpa, my mom's dad, was a catcher growing up. And we connected on that level because I used to spend a lot of time with them as a kid when they'd watch me. And he actually he was offered, well, to back up, he was one of the best players in Chicago at the time. He went to Farragut High School, and this is back in the early 40s. And he was offered a contract from the Chicago Cubs. So the year after his senior year, he graduated. He was the bullpen catcher and practice catcher for the Cubs with the intention of being on the Chicago Cubs the following season. That winter, he got drafted into World War II, and so he didn't get to, take that contract. So he served in World War II. He was in the Army. He, played Army ball. However, that worked out for, the guys when they play when they're in service. And then he had some shrapnel in his leg. He was in Germany. He got some bomb shrapnel in his leg. So he came back and tried to play professionally again. He played for the White Sox and the Cleveland Indians farm teams. Back then it was just the pros and the farm team. But he never ended up getting another professional contract. So then he went into insurance, and that's how he met my grandma, and that's how I got here. So I guess it's a good thing that he didn't go pro. But anyway, baseball was a big part of my life growing up. I played all the way to my sophomore year of college. I ended up tearing my shoulder. So that's where, after all that time spent, practicing and spending a lifetime of a dream to play baseball, I always wanted to also play an instrument. And that's when I ended up buying a guitar from one of my fraternity brothers for like $100.
Just tear your AC? What'd you tear?
No, I actually tore my lats. Right under
oh, really? Yeah, I tore my AC playing hockey.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah. Especially being a catcher. I mean, I thought about maybe going to outfield or something, but we had so many outfielders, it was kind of like, it's kind of over. You know what I mean?
I totally understand. Totally understand.
Wasn't fun, though.
Okay, being a baseball fan from the local area, Cub fan or Sox fan?
I'm a Cub fan.
Okay, we can continue with the interview now.
Yeah.
I was going to say the other way. Well, that was Frank. Thanks so much for being on the show, Frank. What musicians inspired you as far as your approach to music? Were they particular musicians that you really and truly looked up to?
Yeah, so early on, the first song I ever learned to play on guitar was "Home" by Chris Daughtry.
All right, very good.
I was a fan of his from American Idol, and this was before I played anything. But I always loved music. So when American Idol was really big back then, and I guess it still is, but when it was fresh, he was great, and he ended up losing. It probably worked out for him because he got that record deal with RCA and he's still playing today. But I was a big Daughtry fan, so I kind of started playing his songs, and then when I started writing songs, I started focusing on how, the guys that have stood the test of time. So like how Beatles wrote songs that were just simple but amazing. Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Tom Petty. So I really looked into them. And then a couple years in, I would always bring out the guitar and play for people. And somebody was like, "Hey, learn a Dave Matthews song. We're big Dave Matthews fans." And I go, "How hard can it be?" My sister used to listen to him all the time when she'd drive me, when I was a kid, when she had to drop me off somewhere. And I'm like, "How hard can it be?" So I start looking into the ones I knew, like Ants Marching, Satellite. And then I've come to find out that Dave, his hand is like this the whole time on songs going up and down the fretboard. So then that's when I became a huge Dave Matthews fan. And, so a lot of my songs kind of have his influence. And then, of course, the other ones that I mentioned as well.
Awesome. Very good. Now, learning to play cover songs via YouTube is quite common nowadays. What was your experience in the beginning progressing from these cover songs to writing your own music?
So I listened to a John Mayer. I used to listen to all the kinds of interviews from all these people all the time too. And he once said in an interview where, people would say he didn't have a good voice. Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Tom Petty, people told them kind of the same thing when they were getting started. And John Mayer made the comment, and this isn't verbatim, but it was something to the extent of he started writing songs, and his biggest thing was he just wanted to be listenable, and nobody could judge him based on a song he wrote to compare to somebody that he was covering. Mm-hmm. And so, I was still kind of getting my feet wet and learning how to sing and control my voice at the time. And I started thinking, well, I've got things to say. I kind of like to write. And maybe if I write songs, people just judge the song, how I perform it, rather than saying, oh, that was a good song, but you don't sound like Tom Petty or whatnot, mm-hmm. Right. For example. So I thought that'd be a good route to take and just to kind of express my own thoughts in song. So that's kind of how I started writing, just to kind of make a mix of seeing how I would sound if somebody didn't know the song and then they found out it was mine.
Very good, very good. Now, we're going to play a track here. The first one we're going to feature is a song called Turtlehead, a fun song about Tommy the Turtle. What's the story on Tommy the Turtle and Turtlehead?
So I actually, I've always got songs in my head all the time, but I started, for some reason, I started thinking of a turtle. And this is actually kind of a loose story of Billy Mays, the OxyClean guy. Yeah. If you ever remember him. Yeah, so he got famous off all those commercials and lived it up. Unfortunately, he kind of lived hard and didn't last long, but that's kind of what this is loosely based off of. And I just put it in. For some reason, I write about animals a lot. I got monkey call. I don't know why.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
That's right.
All right, here we go. We're going to feature that right now. Turtlehead from today's podcast guest, Frank Ruvoli.
Tommy the Turtle wanted to be as famous as Squirtle, so he packed his bags to head out west to see if chances would be more fertile. The next day he got up early, set out on his journey, one flipper at a time to stay in line on his path of dreams he's yearning. Turtlehead, in his slower he'd be dead. Believe it or not, he got his shot. He doesn't have to swim, he drives a yacht. Turtlehead, all the fame went to his head. One day you're hot, the next you're not. You're just a turtle with diddly squat. He arrived at his destination, dying of thirst and starvation. Saw a water line from a puddle high. He dove in for a swimming hydration. Then came a man who saw Tommy and he said, I've been looking for someone just like you to be the star in my pool heads. Turtlehead, in his slower he'd be dead. Believe it or not, he got his shot. He doesn't have to swim, he drives a yacht. Turtlehead, all the fame went to his head. One day you're hot, the next you're not. You're just a turtle with diddly squat. After he got his big break, knowing Tommy was no mistake, they called him Turtlehead. Women filled his bed, he had the money stacked in the bank. Years passed on by, his looks and skill were running dry. He picked up the phone and he called home. He said, I think my career has died. Turtlehead, in his slower he'd be dead. Believe it or not, he got his shot. He doesn't have to swim, he drives a yacht. Turtlehead, all the fame went to his head. One day you're hot, the next you're not. You're just a turtle with diddly squat. Now Tommy rocks his chair, old and now lost his hair. He thinks of times and recites his lines that made him famous as the World's Fair. Now he dozes off, a peaceful sleep and he's lost. He's up and died, the people cry because the famous Turtlehead has died. Turtlehead, in his slower he'd be dead. Believe it or not, he got his shot. He doesn't have to swim, he drives a yacht. Turtlehead, all the fame went to his head. One day you're hot, the next you're not. You're just a turtle with diddly squat.
Did you guys hear? Turtlehead died!
What? Turtlehead's dead?
Yeah, I heard he came out of his shell.
Now you're just a turtle with diddly squat. You're just a turtle with diddly squat. You're just a turtle with diddly squat. Oh yeah, you're just a turtle with diddly squat.
That's Turtlehead from Fire Tree Records artist Frank Ruvoli on today's Someone You Should Know podcast. We're going to have more music from Frank in just a couple of minutes, but I want to say thanks so much for tuning in to the Someone You Should Know podcast. Heard on the World Wide Web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. If you go there, you'll find our recent news, our archive of more than 170 episodes, and a whole lot more. And if you happen to be visiting, please leave us a review, rate us, let us know how we're doing. That helps us out big time. Now, according to Buzzsprout, the service that shares us to all the streaming platforms, we are so very lucky. 2,200 cities in 90 countries around the world. A couple of cities we'd like to salute include O'Fallon, Missouri, Powder Springs, Georgia, Queens, New York, and Surabaya, East Java, Indonesia. Thanks for tuning in to the Someone You Should Know podcast, heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. We're speaking with Frank Ruvoli. And Frank, your first album called Places I've Been was a significant milestone album because, hey, it was your first album, obviously. But what were some of the most challenging aspects of creating and producing everything on your own?
The biggest challenge was trying to make it sound decent enough to, put on an album and actually charge people for it. I guess you have a little bit of imposter syndrome when you try to do stuff like that. I remember when I first started playing shows, and I had a few, probably about 15, 20 songs at the time, but I had 10 that I was really proud of. I made a demo myself at home, and if bad people like listening to it, I just handed it out for free so people could listen to some of my songs. And 21 that actually, I think, you were going to go over today, that was on that demo. That was actually one of the first songs I wrote. So I used to pass that out, and then I really was hoping I could make it sound better. So the biggest challenge to your question was I spent a ton of time on YouTube learning how to record and engineer on GarageBand. And, I give it up for GarageBand and Beyond, which was one of the channels. The guy's name's Lewin. And then, of course, Graham Cochran from Recording Revolution on YouTube that talks about all kinds of different ways to record. It was very helpful. And I think the quality came out about as good as it could have coming out of a bedroom. So
how do you feel your sound has evolved since the debut?
It's definitely gotten more complex. And I think over the years, I've I like to, my songs can start in a few different ways. It can start with a guitar riff. It can start with an idea in my head. It can start with a phrase that somebody said that I think just sounds musically when people talk about it. I think the evolution is just growing and putting more time into more diverse sounds and music, not to try to sound the same of every song, and just kind of get deeper, whether it be deeper in songwriting or more fun in songwriting. So like Turtlehead, I think, is more of a fun kind of with a deeper story, because I feel like I really went into telling a story there. But
you did. It's a great song. It's a great song.
Thanks.
Speaking of songs, we're going to feature another one. This one's called Taste of You. What's the backstory on Taste of You?
So Taste of You is really about attraction and infatuation. So it's that moment where, you might have a long-term relationship end, and then there's that someone that you kind of always wanted to maybe see if a relationship would work with. And, so you kind of give it a shot, and it's kind of that thing where you've always might have had a crush on somebody, you never got the chance, and you get that chance to let them know you've had a crush on them.
Yeah, very good. I think all of us have experienced that.
Yeah,
Taste of You right now from today's Someone You Should Know podcast guest, Fire Tree Records artist, Frank Ruvoli.
Spell on me, staring down deep into your eyes, so comforting. And you put the music on, we feel what we're hearing, listening to a whole lot of love. And I just want the taste of you, it's sweet and true. Every touch you sets me free, and I want to you're telling me it's time to dive in. And you hold me tight. Don't let go, just pull me in. It feels so right, and I won't bother. The taste of love is sweet and true. Every touch just sets me free, and I won't tell. Give you what you know. You feel like I'm with the taste of love. You free my heart from being black and blue. A new touch and kiss, it's been long overdue. The taste of love is sweet and true. Every touch just sets me free, and I won't tell. Give you what you know. You feel like I'm with the taste of love. The taste of love is sweet and true. Every touch just sets me free, and
That's Taste of You from today's Someone You Should Know podcast guest, Frank Ruvoli. We have some more songs from Frank, but Frank, I wanted to ask you, so far you've been doing this, playing various venues since about 11 years now or so, since 2013. Some of the memorable experience or performances so far that kind of stood out as your favorites.
The first one that pops up is we were hired to play the halftime show at UIC, University of Illinois Chicago, for the UIC DePaul men's basketball game, and that was nationally televised on Chicago Sportsnet. So we had a little cameo while the commentators were going out on halftime. They showed us on TV, and it was really fun. I mean, we're in the middle of we're center court, in front of however many people are. I think they fit 18,000 in there or something. So it was really cool, and to see Frank Ruvoli on the stadium lights during halftime, that was cool. My buddy Brian and I, we've been hired. We played multiple festivals. I traveled to St. Louis. Him and I got hired to play a private event in Arizona a couple years ago. That was amazing. Just a lot of cool opportunities. And one of the things that I always tell people is, especially for people that might say I'm a local musician or regional musician, however they want to classify me, people think that only the musicians that you see on the Grammys or here on the mainstream radio are the ones that get to have all the cool experiences. I can't tell you, by just doing this for 11 years and for the most part staying in the Midwest, how many great people I've had the opportunity to meet and how many great opportunities we've had that it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for music. So there's a lot of cool things that I can attribute to my music career for sure.
And seeing it last December, there was a lot of great bands at the Toys for Tots benefit at Avenue
Yes.
912. A lot of great performers over there too.
Yeah. And I mean, just to put into perspective how, the world works and how things come full circle. Nate Venturelli and I, we grew up right behind each other. I mean, I've known him since, I think he's just about 3 years younger than me. I'm the same age as his sister Brittany, so I've known him forever. And then when he started playing music, it was, it's funny how it all comes around.
Yeah, it is, and he's just tearing it up and very, very proud of
he
him.
is.
He was a former podcast guest, and also, geez, it's just wonderful. I love the. I guess it was just a singer songwriter showcase you had there. It was just so nice. You took each had their own turn. It kind of reminded me of the old guitar pulls you used to have in the old days, where you do you and then you go next and you go next type thing. Yeah, it was a very fun evening, and they raised a lot of toys for the kids. That's always fun too. And my dear friend Kevin Friend was behind that too, and Kevin is just a great guy too. Next feature is something that it happens to almost every musician, every performer. Things don't go quite as planned. It's called Tales from the Road, those infamous road stories where things didn't go as planned. You get to a gig and you plug in, and all of a sudden the amp blows, your string pops, or whatever it might be. They lose the power, a storm comes through and takes out all the power. How about you, Frank? What would you say?
Well, a couple come to mind. I mean, so when I first started, when I played myself, or when Brian and I, my lead guitarist too, you met, I think, at Toys for Tots as well. We don't ever do set lists, and we learned that early on. And I learned that because when I used to book bars or restaurants, I just wanted to have somebody that would hire me to play. And early on, you really don't care how much you get paid. You just want to play. So I would sometimes go into bars that I didn't really know that well, and it would end up being a biker bar or something like
Oh
that.
my, yeah.
And I would have a set list set up with like Lumineer cover songs and this, that, and the other. And I would look at my set list and I'd be like, oh man, I don't think this crowd is gonna like Lumineers and stuff like that. So early on, I mean, thank God I've had an iPad. Technology has been there for me ever since I've started. So I've been able to kind of pull up songs, and if I kind of know it, I'll give it a shot. So that night, and that was probably, I don't know, 2013 or 2014, early on when I first started doing this, I learned just go in, try to know as many songs as you can, and just perform and entertain, and try to keep the guests in on it. So we don't use set lists anymore. We know so many cover songs, we have so many original songs, and we just try to find what people like. And as we start, we'll kind of mix around different genres and go from there. And once we see people vibing with whatever we're playing, we kind of stick on that route and keep people entertained.
Funny you say that, because I've had a lot of artists say the same thing as far as they get paid. Gary Hoey, great guitarist, he was telling me that he and his band, which played straight ahead rock and roll, a lot of their own songs, they were told that they're apparently doing this Christmas party for a bunch of Goombas in New York. Okay, and they took him aside and said, "Well, we want disco."
Oh, man.
And he says, well, we don't do disco. He says, well, you better learn some disco pretty damn fast because because we don't want anything happen to your equipment. So they took the afternoon off. They went to a local record store. They got a songbook. They learned a lot of Casey and the Sunshine Band songs. They learned 7 songs and played it over and over again, and even got invited back.
Wow. Yeah, I get it. I get it. And it's tough. It's tough when that happens.
Yeah.
So the other one I think is kind of funny, but when Brian and I got hired to play a festival in northern Michigan, I mean, we were all the way. I mean, we could probably throw a rock at Canada. We were on our way there, and it was a 6.5 hour ride, and the whole ride was kind of funny because we were driving. When you get up, and those commercials of pure Michigan, and Michigan's a beautiful state, no doubt about it. But for whatever reason, whatever route we were on, we were hitting nothing but potholes. So Brian makes the comment of, hey, welcome to pure Michigan, douche, douche, douche. So we're hitting potholes, and we're like, oh man, and beautiful state. So that was kind of the beginning of a long car ride. So we're driving, and the GPS says we're 45 minutes away from where we're supposed to be. The festival is in this beautiful renovated barn, and then they do like, you can camp on the farm if you want. So we're on our way, and we start seeing a bunch of Army vehicles, and we see a tank, we see Hummers, and we're like, what's going on around here? We start seeing signs for caution or live minefield or something like that. We're like, oh man, where are we? And we're on these tight roads, and there's Hummers going in and out. We're seeing Army people with their machine guns. We're like, all right, I think we took a wrong turn or something. So I start calling the guy, and he finally answers, and I go, hey, it says we're now about 30 minutes away. I go, but I think we took a wrong turn. I go, because we're seeing live minefields here. I go, there's Hummers and Army people everywhere. He goes, oh no, that's right on the way. Just keep driving. You'll be here any minute. We're thinking to ourselves like, man, it would have been helpful to know that, because we were pretty scared that we were going to get arrested for just being on the wrong side of the track.
Absolutely. How do we wind up in an Army base?
Right.
Doesn't say it on the map.
But the entire area, if you get off that road,
Yeah.
you're on military land. So
Jeez, yeah.
we were like,
don't
God.
break down.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely. Good story, Frank. Do appreciate that. Let's talk about your social media, as far as where can people find out where you're going to be the rest of, say, for instance, the rest of spring and into summer.
Yeah, so I post everything on Facebook and Instagram, show dates and all that stuff. My Facebook is Frank Ruvoli Music, and then my Instagram is just Frank _Ruvoli.
Okay, very good. What we'll do is we'll include those down in the show notes. So if anyone wants to follow Frank, I know you do because the music's fabulous. You definitely just check the show notes, click the link. It'll take you directly to Frank's social medias. All right, final song we're going to feature is one you mentioned earlier. It's a fan favorite called 21. What's the story on 21?
So this is when I first started writing songs. I just turned 21, and so I was all excited about being 21. So, still had the hype. So I was writing this song, and at the time, I think I had maybe 4 or 5 other songs, but this one seemed to really hit with everybody because it worked well the way I wrote it. And then all my friends were turning 21 at the time too, so that was their favorite song to listen to. So, as I mentioned, I put this on a demo, and people had known about it. I think I had it on Facebook, or I'm sorry, on YouTube at some point. But when I started recording with Nick Kazonis, another great friend of mine and local musician, he asked, what would you like to start with? And I said, well, 21 is a song that I wrote a long time ago. People love it, but I never really was able to record it. I just did it in my bedroom, and I don't think it turned out that well. So he said, okay, well, let's work on that one. And I really loved what he did with it. So I've had that song written since a long time now, but I originally released it on that demo in 2015, and then we re-released it in 2021 with the way it is now on Spotify.
Awesome. Very good. 21 is the song that's going to wrap up the show here. Frank, I really thank you so much for being a part of the Someone You Should Know podcast, taking time out of your busy day to be with us and tell us about your music. Thanks so much for being part of the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Rick. I really appreciate it.
Having a blast out at the bar, all my friends taking me too far. Beer and shots are getting to me. I feel like a celebrity, yeah. Come on, 'cause I just turned 21. Everybody's drinking and having some fun. The alcohol's flowing, everything's free. 'Cause I just turned 21. Everybody's drinking and having some fun. The alcohol's flowing, everything's free. It's time to party. It's time to party. One by one they're going down. I don't know what number round it's been for me. I'm feeling kinda dizzy, but the drinks are free, so I gotta stay busy, yeah. 'Cause I just turned 21. Everybody's drinking and having some fun. The alcohol's flowing, everything's free. 'Cause I just turned 21. Everybody's drinking and having some fun. The alcohol's flowing, everything's free. It's time to party. It's time to party. Tomorrow it's back to reality. The fun will take its toll on me, but I don't care. 'Cause I just turned 21. Everybody's drinking and having some fun. The alcohol's flowing, everything's free. 'Cause I just turned 21. Everybody's drinking and having some fun. The alcohol's flowing, everything's free. 'Cause I just turned 21. Everybody's drinking and having some fun. The alcohol's flowing, everything's free. It's time to party. It's time to party. It's time to party.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.